As property investors, one thing that we are always trying to do is get more done. And if we can get more stuff done in less time, then even better. Now, when it comes to our own story, we're fairly open about the type of stuff that we are up to, whether it's buying a new project, refinancing something, working on a renovation, but we don't really go into a huge amount of detail of how we break that down and fit it into our own schedule. And that's something we get asked about a huge amount, what a typical day or a week looks like for us. So that's exactly what we're going to look at today, or to be more precise, over the course of the next 7 days. We're going to look at what works, what we're working to improve, how we split the roles and responsibilities, what our typical schedule looks like, and some tips and tools that you can apply to your own business, your own schedule, your own routine as well, to try and make you more effective at getting more stuff done in less time. If that sounds good, then stick around, and whilst you're here, I'd be super grateful if you gave this video a like as well. The first thing to consider is that the start to our most successful week starts before the week even begins. Sometimes on a Friday, but normally on a Sunday, when Victoria and I sit down to review two parts of our schedule for what's to come. The first part of this is reviewing our calendar, and here we're looking for three things. First of all, how much free time have we got for additional work that isn't scheduled into our diary? Secondly, how much of those things that are scheduled in are actually essential, and is there anything that we can cancel or postpone because it's not a priority for us for what we're looking to achieve at that point in time? And thirdly, are there any conflicts that we need to be worrying about? And it's better to do that now in advance rather than wait until we get to the specific meeting and realize that we can't be in two places at one time. Now, one thing I want to make really clear here is that I'm super precious of my calendar. Very little actually makes it in there. I hate meetings, I hate phone calls. Unless it is absolutely essential, I would far rather deal with something through a couple of emails. I know people think that's less effective. I know people prefer to jump on a phone call and make a quick decision. But for me, if I get interrupted with meetings constantly throughout the day and throughout the week, it really interrupts my flow, my creative thinking, and stops me creating work, doing work in the best way possible. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about over the course of the next 7 days is finding out what works well for you. Once we've done that, we head into Asana, which is the software that we use for all of our task and project management. Now for you, this might be a notebook or something like Trello. Whatever it is, you really need to get into the habit of using this properly, keeping it up to date and checking in with it on a regular basis to make sure that it's still got the most relevant tasks in the right order. Now for us, we'll talk a bit more about Asana as we get into the week. But our Sunday planning session looks through all of our projects, make sure we pick out the priorities from each of them that need to get done in the next week, and we make sure that they are allocated to specific days for the week ahead, with no more than 2 or 3 priorities for each of us for any given day. This is how I like my calendar to look, nice and empty, lots of clear space where I can get big chunks of work done. And then if we take a quick look in Asana, you'll see that day by day is broken down as well. So this is stuff that doesn't need to be scheduled for a specific time, so we don't bother putting it in the calendar. We also tend to front load the week so that we've got more tasks to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, meaning that if things do start to slip, we've got some additional time Thursday, Friday to catch up before the weekend begins. This whole process only takes us 20 to 30 minutes a week, but not only does it make sure we get more done throughout the coming week, it also makes sure we get the right stuff done, that the priorities are what we focus on first. Once we've got it done, we know we've given ourselves the best chance of success, so we can switch off and unwind, enjoy our Sunday evening, and we will see you guys bright and early tomorrow. I've been up for about 30 minutes now on Monday morning, and the start of my day is always pretty much identical. I take the dogs out, make sure they've got breakfast and water, and then it's straight down to work. I don't have a crazy morning routine. I don't subscribe to the Miracle Morning or meditation or even caffeine for that matter. The first working hour of my day is usually committed to 3 tasks. The first is just a quick reminder of what my priorities are for later that day, double checking my schedule, double checking Asana, making sure that I am familiar with what my purpose is for that day. Then I'm making sure that my team are clear on what their purpose is and that they've got all the information they need from me. At any point in time, we've usually got 3 people working for us: our lettings manager, our project manager, and our virtual assistant out in the Philippines. So making sure that they're clear on what I'd like them to be focusing on is really important. And from there, it's a bit of firefighting, email checking. I like to keep my inbox clear. I tend to check it twice a day and make sure that it is always at inbox 0 wherever possible. So the first hour or so is committed to those 3 tasks. Once that's done, I try to get exercise in somewhere between 4 and 6 days a week. I just feel like getting out early in the day clears my head and gives me a lot more energy for everything that's still to come. My current exercise of choice is, of course, running, working on improving general fitness, but also trying to improve my 5 and 10k speeds. But the added bonus is it gives me 30 minutes to an hour every day where I can catch up with podcasts and audiobooks, which I've kind of missed out on because I'm not driving around so much anymore. Obviously, exercise is only as good as the diet that you're eating, so after a healthy breakfast, we can get down to the rest of the day's work. The ideal scenario is that I am sat down ready to go by about 10 a.m. and depending on the day, depending on my mood, depending on how busy we are, I'll do anything from about 3 to 5 hours of core work in that time. Sometimes the focus will be on one individual bigger task, other days it may be 3 or 4 smaller tasks, but I try not to have more than that number of priorities, otherwise it just feels a bit overwhelming and I actually end up getting less done. Today is a good example. You can see that I have got 2 major tasks that I really need to focus on. The first is creating a new process for our overdue rents from the letting agency. But part of that is also going to be creating a process document to hand that over to Jackie so that she can be doing this on a weekly basis. But on any given day, we could be looking at things from sourcing our next deal to submitting a finance application, maybe trying to raise private investor finance, or working through a schedule or quotes for an in-flight project. It's now 5 o'clock, which is actually usually a little later than I normally like to finish. Not for the whole day, I'll come back and do a couple hours later on, but usually around 2 or 3, I kind of get this energy slump, and after years of trying to fight it, I just realized that it was unproductive time for me, so the best thing to do was to take a break. So normally what I would do at that time is get away from the laptop, get away from the screens, either take the dogs for a walk or go and do something that is needed in our personal life, something unwork related, just to sit, relax and take some time for ourselves. Today though, with the task I was working on, the process I was creating and trying to document, the end was in sight, so I stuck with it and managed to get it finished. I spent the morning updating our process for late rents, starting off with this template that I've created, and I've documented the entire process and handed that over to Jackie with a repeat task in Asana so that she can now pick that up and I don't need to really look at it again unless she raises an issue to me. I think accepting that I couldn't be 100% effective all of the time was one of the best realizations I made, not just for my productivity, but also for my general health. And it's something I'd suggest you take a look at as well. If you're struggling with it, just spend the next couple of weeks tracking your energy levels and see how you can play that to your advantage in terms of how you schedule your work. So we're getting towards the end of day 1 of our weekly routine, and the evenings for us are like the rest of the day, fairly standard. Spend a bit of time relaxing, we usually have a nice meal together, and then either watch a bit of Netflix, read a book, or even lately, after I signed up for a masterclass, I've been learning a bit of chess. Tonight specifically, I am finishing off this book, Superfans by Pat Flynn. I'm pretty much 99% of the way there, so if you've got any recommendations of what I should read next, I'd love to hear what your suggestions are in the comments. I'll get through the rest of that, and then I'll probably spend about an hour before bed just letting my mind work on something a bit more creative, less prescriptive, just see where I end up on a project that's not urgent, but something I've got a bit of passion for before heading to bed for an early-ish night. If this video was me just talking you through our schedule every day throughout the week, you'd start to realize pretty quickly that it's even more boring than Groundhog Day. Tuesday today is very similar to yesterday. Started off taking the dogs out, getting them breakfast, then did an hour of email and firefighting, making sure the team are set up for the day. A quick run, although today was sprints. Sprints today. And then from here, we've got a block of core working time. I'm going to spend most of the morning and early afternoon looking at some video editing for the HMO course. And then about 2 o'clock, I've got a meeting with Tom to look at cleaning up our website ahead of a big redesign that we've got planned. We'll then take a couple of hours off in late afternoon, early evening. And this evening, rather than doing something a bit more creative, I've actually got a call with our HMO course members as a bit of a Q&A bonus. So what I thought I'd look at instead today are the tools that we use for planning, scheduling, and communicating to make sure that we are all as effective as possible. Hi mate. Yeah, good. Okay, it doesn't always go exactly to plan. One thing I wasn't expecting was a call from Sai, our project manager, but it was good news. He has got a structural engineer lined up to go and do a full survey of our Underbank project tomorrow morning, and he just wanted to run through the demolition plan for us. Without doubt, the most important tool that we use is Asana, and unless you want to get super fancy with it or you've got a huge team, it's going to be free for 99% of users. You saw a bit of this on Sunday night as we were preparing for the week ahead, and in this top section as well as that we have got our quarterly goals and priorities and a few other little bits and pieces of personal stuff. We've got a section for all of our property projects. Each ongoing renovation project has got its own individual project because there are so many tasks associated with that. Once they are complete, we bundle the rest of the work that's required for them, whether it's ongoing property management, maintenance requests, refinancing in the property management project. The final section for us, which may not be relevant to you, is more of our content and social media planning, looking at things like blog posts, podcasts, videos, and also the social media side of things as well. Now, like I say, most of this might not be relevant to you, but if you are trying to grow a brand, it is worth having some sort of structure and forward planning for all of your activities so that every day you don't have to wake up and think, gee, what am I going to post today? Next up is Slack, which again is going to be free for the majority of users. And this is kind of like a business version of WhatsApp. We use it for communicating with our team. Now, how we split between Asana and Slack is if it's a specific project, if it's got a due date, if it's an activity that someone specifically needs to take action for and complete, then it always goes in Asana. If it goes in Asana, it gets done, and if it doesn't go in Asana, chances are it will get forgotten about. So we make sure every specific task goes in there. Anything else, any random conversations, quick questions, someone needing to get an access code for a key safe, anything like that, we use Slack for our day-to-day communication between the team. Now, the benefit of using this rather than WhatsApp is it means that in our personal lives, in the evenings, weekends, if we're on holiday, we can turn off Slack. We don't need to worry about the notifications getting mixed in with friends and family that we're trying to continue to communicate with in our own personal time. We also use Google Drive and Dropbox. Now, a lot of people will just use one or the other of these, and that's absolutely fine, but just the way that we have grown, we've ended up using them both for kind of different purposes. Google Drive is for all of our shared documents, our quotes, schedule of works, anything that we need to collaborate on and work together or access multiple times in the future, like process documents that we might need to share with multiple different members of our team or even people out with our team. Dropbox, on the other hand, is more long-term storage for images, videos, inventory reports, tenancy agreements, and all that sort of stuff. So if it's collaborative, it's on Google Drive. If it's more long-term archival, it goes on Dropbox. And then finally, we have a calendar app. Now, I've got access here to my own calendar, as well as being able to see Victoria's, our lettings manager, and our project managers, just to know what everyone is up to, how their schedule's looking, and if I need to speak to them, when I can fit it in without conflicting with anything else that they've got going on. I said earlier in the week that every task we do doesn't go into the calendar. I'm not one of these people that schedules out every minute of my day. If it needs to get done in a specific week or on a specific day, Asana is good enough for that by putting in a due date. It will only go in the calendar if it needs to take place at a specific time. So something like a site meeting or a call with our mortgage advisor. The best thing is, out of these 5 tools, all of them are free to use except for Dropbox. It's the only one that we pay for monthly, but the good thing is you don't need to. If you've got limited storage, if you can get by just using Google Drive, then you can have this entire setup for free. So we're halfway through the week now, and whilst I've been going through what our typical schedule looks like, you might have noticed one important part of my life missing. That could look terrible, but let's roll with it. We get asked a lot about the split of roles and responsibilities. Obviously, there are 2 of us running this business, or the different aspects of our business, the renovations, the property management, the podcast side of things. And I guess, first of all, in terms of your roles and responsibilities in the business, what parts of it do you focus on?
Okay, so the main ones are the social media. So if you are talking to us on social media, 9 times out of 10 you'll be talking to me. The interior design is another big one, so I do all our interiors myself. We don't have any help with that. So I'll design all the schemes for the various properties.
That's kind of split into two parts as well, right? Like the layouts starting with our architect at the early stage,
yes,
and then the latter stage. So you kind of come in at the start of the projects,
yeah,
help us figure out the best actual
yeah. It's
layout.
It's not just the paint colours and the cushions at the end. It's the design and the floor plans at the very beginning of a project as well. So design, I guess, not just interior design, but all design. Currently, I'm dealing with the tenant management and the property management. We're in between letting managers at the moment, so because we're stuck in the UK, that's something I am dealing with. And then I guess from a non-business perspective, more of our personal life falls onto me. So I am the skipper of the boat.
Dog admin, boat admin, life admin, travel admin,
social admin as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess they're my main roles.
And I mean, for me, we've kind of spoken about this earlier in the week, but more, I guess, of the kind of businessy side of stuff, legals, finance, business like bookkeeping,
all the boring stuff, really.
But also dealing with the renovations, a lot of the purchases. But I think the thing that's changed a lot with us is when you first left the corporate world, and I was like, yay, new employee, and you were like, no, I'm the boss. We tried to really get clear on like defined roles and responsibilities, and that might work for some people, but I don't think it worked particularly well for us.
It doesn't at all. It really doesn't work for us at all. We can't help but get involved in each other's business. We spend every waking minute together, and especially when we're on the boat, it's quite a small space. I mean, it's quite a small space in this flat as well. And we just find it works better for us to work together and bounce off each other. So although that is the kind of high level split, in reality, we do everything together.
Yeah, I think from a schedule point of view, I'm usually up before you, a couple of hours earlier than you. So when I'm doing my
hours, you make me sound extremely
morning firefighting session, taking the dogs out, going through the emails, making sure the team are set up, I'm usually dealing with that. Our core work period during the day is usually when we'll be sat next to each other and sharing ideas, getting on with different parts of processes, but bouncing off each other quite a lot. And then in the evenings, we'll walk the dogs together. You'll deal with personal admin. I'll maybe do a couple of hours extra work on some of the creative stuff. I've covered this earlier in the video, and I'll probably cut this section out because it's irrelevant and I'm rambling. Waffling.
Very unlike you.
But yeah, I think that's a fair overview of how we split our roles and responsibilities. It's just a case of being flexible, isn't it?
Yeah. So in summary, we have parts of the business that we both own and responsible for, but in reality, we work very closely together and we're both involved in all key decisions.
Something that's a fairly recent addition to our schedule, but that we are both valuing massively, is the idea of setting aside one day a week, in our case on a Thursday, to focus on our business rather than working in it. And having this clear, defined time where we're not having to firefight or do day-to-day tasks really helps us focus on what's going to help us grow our business in the best possible way. Every week we'll have a quick review of what we're working on, and if we need any help or input from one or the other. The thing that we're focusing on specifically today is a review of our notes from Social Media Marketing World, just to see what parts of that we should be implementing in our business as a priority. Every month we'll assess our plans for the month ahead to make sure they still tie back to our quarterly and our annual goals, and then once a quarter we'll use this day to review what our focus is going to be for the next 90-day sprint.
And just like that, it is Saturday. We seem to have lost Friday somewhere along the way, but that's not unusual for us as we rush towards the end of the week to try and get everything finished and catch up with a couple of tasks that have cropped up over the course of the previous days as well. But just because it's the weekend, don't think we're necessarily easing off, even if Victoria can talk me into some random pampering stuff along the way. What's that quote about living a couple of years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life how other people can't? Well, given the weekends account for over 25% of the time of your life, that can give you a good boost over the competition by putting in just a few hours on a Saturday and Sunday as well. Anyway, hopefully that gives you a good insight into our typical weekly routine. And just to wrap us up, here's a bit of a recap of some of our top tips for a productive schedule. Above everything else is finding a structure that works for you. So give some serious thought to your daily energy levels, your other priorities, and where your passions truly lie as well. I'm not suggesting that you need to work 16-hour days every day of the week, but at least make sure when you are working, it's when you're going to be at your most effective. Next up, don't overwhelm yourself with dozens of tasks on your priority list every single day. It's just going to lead to frustration and less productivity than a small number of tasks. Focusing on 2 or 3 things every day that are really going to push your business forward is going to have a far greater impact, and all of the other non-essential, less important stuff can get done once your big priorities are taken care of. Third, when it comes to scheduling, make sure that you actually schedule in time to do your scheduling. This is something that took us a while to get into the habit of, and as such, we kind of fell out of the habit of being productive after a couple of weeks. But now we have our Sunday night review where we plan the week ahead. We have our morning reviews to make sure that that day is going to be productive. We have our bigger quarterly and annual reviews, not just to focus on our priorities, but also our wider goals as well. And I genuinely believe that setting time aside for planning is just as important as setting time aside to do the actual work. And finally, and to be honest, this is probably a subject for an entire video, don't feel like you need to do everything yourself. Get in the habit of delegating, get in the habit of deleting tasks that aren't important. Start to build your team with virtual assistants or part-time employees, and it will have a huge impact on your own productivity and your business growth for the future. That's everything we wanted to cover. I would obviously appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel if you want to see more about our own property journey and some tips to help you get started with your own investing as well. And give this video a thumbs up if it has been useful for you. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend or whatever day it is when you're watching this, and we will see you in the next video.